Hey guys, in this video we're going to be taking a look at the Holybro Shuriken 250, and it's a pretty cool product. It comes already built up already, and it's bind and fly. This particular one comes with a XSR FrSky receiver. It's a pretty unique design. Here's what the back looks like. F3 flight controller, 2205 motors, 5-inch propellers. It's got 30 amp ESCs. Wow. A 600 milliwatt VTX. And the, it looks like the power output is also switchable between 25 or 600. Okay, let's get everything out of the box. Take a look at it. Okay, so inside the box it comes with this really nice case. It's opened. So here we got the quad, and over here on the side we got some accessories. We'll take a look at those. Let's get those out first. Okay. So it looks like they give you some spare propellers. And it doesn't say what kind of brand of propeller it is, just a 5x45. It looks like a bullnose propeller. The same as the one that's on here. Get some stickers. You get a quick start guide. Get some warnings. This is a spare parts list. Pretty cool. Okay, you get a little bag of goodies here. Let me, looks like there's some interesting stuff here. Let me get those out. So you have a couple of zip ties. Get a spare battery strap. There's already two on the quad here. I think this is something that goes on the back. It looks like this is the XT60 connector. This might be a spare camera mount. I'll have to look at the manual to figure out what those are. A couple of screws here for those. Get a couple of these connector cables. I'm not sure what these are for. I'll look at these a little later. They give you a couple of these double-sided foam tape things, 3M sticky pads. Lastly, they include a spare SMA connector for your video transmitter, which is interesting. I've never seen any kit come with a spare connector, so take a look at that later. Okay, so taking a look at the quad itself. Like I said, it comes in this really nice case. It's this is not foam. It's just like a plastic mold with some like cloth over it, and it's perfectly molded to the shape of the quad. Get your video transmitter antenna. I believe this is an SMA antenna, and they give you this tool for taking your propellers on and off. Because of the way that the motors are sort of underneath here, underneath this carbon fiber plate, you can't grab the bells to put on the props, so you're going to need a tool like this to hold the motor while you're screwing down the nut. So it's very nice that they include this. So you can see that's what it looks like with the quad out. It perfectly matches all of the features that are underneath here. So we'll take a look at the quad now. Okay, so here's a closer look at the quad itself. I think I'm gonna go ahead and take the propellers off just so I can get some closer in shots here. Just before we do that, I just want to make note that it looks like they have the counter-rotating lock nuts. So it looks like these are going to be the normal righty-tighty nuts, and I think they got the black ones here on motors 1 and 4 that are going to be lefty or reversed. So that's okay. It would have been nice to have all normal nuts, but they're lock nuts, so it shouldn't matter too much. But I'm going to go ahead and take those off, and then we'll take a closer look at this. So just want to show you guys how this little tool works here. I'm not really sure what this is called, but it's perfectly matched to the shape of this particular motor, which I'm not exactly sure what kind of motor it is yet, but we'll find out soon enough. But as you can see, it locks right in to the bell there, and then you can loosen the nut without the motor rotating underneath there. And I think this is pretty much the only way you can do that, because there's no real way to grab the motor, at least without hurting your fingers. So I just want to show you that is how that works. Not sure what this side's for. Maybe for a different size motor, perhaps. This is the 250. Maybe this is for the other one that they sell, the 180. That's probably what that's for. Okay, got the props off, and I'm gonna give you guys a closer look at what these are. I don't know what brand these are. Maybe if someone out there knows, let me know in the comments below. This looks like a generic 5x45. There's no branding on there at all, but it's a bullnose 3-bladed prop. So if anyone knows, let me know. Okay, so now we can get a closer look at this guy, Shuriken 250. Pretty interesting design here. You got a nice, pretty thick top plate here. That's the carbon fiber top plate. And you got this plastic shroud in the middle that's being sandwiched, and then below here is going to be your fiberglass electronics board, which is like an all-in-one PDB. It's got your ESCs and flight controller and pretty much everything. We'll open this up and take a closer look at what's going on in there. Let's see here. 2 battery straps, very nice, and the straps are a non-slip grippy material. And then on the where the battery sits on the carbon fiber, there's a non-slip rubber pad here as well, which is nice. Overall, this whole thing feels very premium compared to a lot of things I've seen. Okay, here in the back says do not connect power without connecting antenna first. So they're referring to the video transmitter antenna. You always want to have your antenna screwed in before you plug it in, so you don't fry your video transmitter. Let's go ahead and remove this. Okay, so back here you just got your XT60 connector, and looks like that's for your video transmitter, probably your bands and channels. See anything else back here? You got your USB port for your flight controller, and you got 2 of the antennas sticking out of the back here, which I'm not a huge fan of. Not very likely that it's ever going to get cut by the props, but might get damaged by something else. So I think I may put some heat shrink on these just to give them a little bit of additional stiffness, because you want to keep the active part of the antenna straight. So if it gets like bent, probably not going to work as well. Can't see what kind of a motor this is. I'm going to have to take the top plate off here to get an identification of what kind of motor it is. If it is a 2205, 25, 50 kV, so it's a high kV motor. Here's the front. So there aren't any LEDs anywhere that I could see. I thought there were LEDs on here, but it doesn't look like there are. Yeah, I don't see any. Maybe they're inside. Take a look at the bottom here. So this is pretty nice. They got these plastic protectors here, like kind of like landing feet to protect the screws so the motors don't get damaged. And this fiberglass plate here has also got some additional protection underneath here, so that if you hit any rocks, anything sharp, it's not going to pierce this fiberglass electronics plate and damage your components. It would have been nice if they could have extended this through the arm. Let's take a look. I think just the ESCs are there, but there's potential for damage there. It says CG there. I think that means that's the center of gravity. Okay, let's take a closer look at the camera. So we got this little shroud here protecting the camera. It's like the whole camera is on these vibration dampeners, so you can see that it's pretty easy to move, and it's kind kind of free floating, which is going to be good because I believe this is a CMOS camera, so you don't want a lot of vibration. You're going to get a lot of jello in your FPV feed. Would have been nice if they could have just put in a nice CCD camera in there. We'll have to check out the quality of the video of this. So a lot of the CMOS cameras these days are pretty good, but there have been some pretty bad ones out there, so we'll have to see what that looks like. But it's free floating. Now, Holybro did also send me this GoPro stand, and this is what it looks like. And you have to assemble it. It's made from carbon fiber, includes a strap. We'll look at this a little later, but I believe that will go right here and probably over this camera and probably replace this plastic shroud with that stand. And with this vibration dampening system here with the GoPro mounted on that, that should also help with any kind of vibration or jello. But I'll put that on a little bit later. Let's see what else here. Looks like you got some jumpers here. I think that's for selecting your VTX power output from 25 or 600 milliwatts. There's supposed to be a bind button somewhere so that you could bind to the FrSky receiver that's inside. Okay, so I'm trying to find the bind button for the FrSky receiver because obviously they probably designed it so that you can bind without having to open this thing up, but the manual, the quick start guide, does not seem to show where the bind button is. And so I've been sort of looking around in here as to what could be potentially the bind button. And we got these 4 holes here. It looks like there might be 2 buttons there and maybe 1 button there on the right. Hard to see. Over here in this hole we got a set of 4 dip switches. I think that might be for switching the channels. And then we got a 4-pin connector in this hole here. And another, I think it's a 4-pin connector over there. That might be for some the additional UARTs, for some additional accessories like a GPS perhaps. But I'm going to have to open this up to find the bind buttons. Okay, so before I actually open it up, I wanted to show you guys the quick start guide, just to highlight a few things that I haven't covered yet. So it's a 40 channel, 5.8 gigahertz radio transmitter. It comes with an integrated OSD, which is the multi-wii OSD or micro minim OSD. That's fully integrated. We've got the MPU 6050 gyro in the flight controller, which is a better one instead of the 6500. Let's see what else we got here. Shows you the weight, 465 grams. And then it's recommending a 1300 milliamp hour 4S pack. I believe this whole copter was designed with 4S in mind. It's supposed to be a racing copter. And then there you go, that's the recommended battery, 1300 4S. So here are the ESCs. It doesn't tell you what kind of ESCs they are. It just says it supports BL Heli, 30 amp continuous and 40 amp peak, 2 to 4S. And it has one-shot 125 and motor braking, which is good. The camera is PAL and NTSC switchable. It's interesting. It's CMOS 700 TVL, pretty average. This particular one comes with a FrSky receiver, but you can also opt to get a Spektrum satellite or pretty much any other receiver. It does S.bus and PPM. These are the bind instructions, but it doesn't tell you where the bind button is. Okay, so now to look at the back side of this quick start guide, I found where they diagrammed the bind button. There it is. That's that. One of the left one on the top, and it's going to be that one right there. And so yes, it explains a lot here. We got a LED hole, so it gives you the status of the receiver. This is the UART3 for the Spektrum satellite, and that's what this cable is for. I think it's this one. Yeah, so they gave you this 3-pin cable with a servo connector. This is for that one right there. You get additional UARTs, UART1, UART3, PPM, and UART2. We'll take a closer look at that when I open this guy up. Okay, so in this page it talks about how to set up your video transmitter and changing your channels and bands. And the button over there that's just below the bind button is the button you use to change your channels. And the first LED is going to be your band, and your second LED is going to be your channels. So the dip switches that I was referring to before over here, which isn't labeled, I don't know what that is yet. So it says here to switch bands, you press the button, hold for 2 seconds, and if you want to switch channels, you just short press the button. So it's pretty in line with a lot of other video transmitters out there, but this just happens to be fully integrated. Okay, so here is the next page, step 3, connecting it to CleanFlight and making your configuration changes in the CleanFlight configurator. It looks pretty good. You might need to install some drivers. Most computers should be able to auto-detect that. And over here we have our explanation for what the dip switches are. It is for choosing what the USB controller or the USB port does. So in this setup, it's for connecting the USB to the flight controller. And if you have it like this, it's going to be connecting to the OSD, which makes sense. It's probably because the OSD is probably on UART1 and they're sharing the same UART. So you have to use these dip switches to change which device the USB port actually connects to. So it's either going to connect to the flight controller or connect to the OSD. So good to know. Here we can use a button. That's the third button that I didn't know it was, and you can use that to turn your OSD on and off. So I'll be checking that out. That's pretty cool. This manual is actually quite good now that I'm actually looking at it. And those jumpers there are for switching your power on your video transmitter. And we got a little diagram here of the board if we need to enter boot mode to flash perhaps Betaflight, which I might be doing later. It shows you where on the board to do that, to enter boot mode. And it looks like here shows you which hex file to select. It's just a SB Racing F3. That's pretty common. And also to select manual baud rate of 256,000, and that is also normal for this particular hex. Okay, now let's open this up. Okay, this screw here on the end is being held in by a bolt underneath here. So I'm gonna have to. I was just trying to unscrew this, and I was like, it's not coming out. So just be aware that there's a bolt here. Okay, so we're gonna remove these 4 screws here on the ends of the motors, and it looks like there's gonna be 2 over here in the front, 2 here in the middle, and then 2 in the back. And they all have the bolts. Okay, so once you remove all of those screws and nuts, top plate just comes right off. And this is a very thick carbon fiber plate. Let's see how thick this is. So yeah, it comes in at 3 millimeters, which is about what I thought it was. So this combined with the strength of this plastic shroud and the bottom fiberglass plate, I think it should be hold up pretty well in a crash. You'd have to really hit the concrete or asphalt super hard to bust up anything. But of course anything is breakable if you hit it, if you crash it hard enough. Okay, so let's see what kind of ESCs we got here. It's just Holybro 30 amp labeled here. It doesn't say what kind of ESC it is. It's their own brand probably. It's probably a rebrand of something. I think once I hook it up to BL Heli Suite, it'll tell me reveal what we're actually dealing with here. But it's a pretty clean design here. You got your motors, your motor wires. The soldering looks not the greatest. Actually, you can see there how rough that is. Isn't shiny. So either they're not using a lot of flux in their solder, which is pretty common, or these are cold solder joints, which is not going to be good. Because these, if they're rough like that, they have a tendency to break after a lot of vibrations. After many flights and the motor vibrates, these joints, they weaken and then they crack, and then you get a crash. Now the solder joints over here that connect the EC to the board are actually quite a bit better. They look shiny, and it looks like they've got lots of flux there. You can actually see the flux overflowing onto the PCB. See if I can get another look. Yeah, so those are pretty good. Over on this side, that looks pretty good for the power and the signal. But all the motor wires connected to the ECs, those are not so great. Yeah, this one's a little bit better. The two front ones aren't so hot. This one looks okay. Yeah, this one's good because it's nice and shiny. So I may want to think about redoing those myself. It looks a little concerning. Got the camera mount here on these rubber dampeners, and I think they go through the bottom. Yeah, they're kind of covered up by this plate here, so you can't see where they're connected to. However, if this is damaged in a crash and this is ripped off, you're going to have to get underneath here to replace those. So that's something to be aware of. The camera angle looks like it's adjustable. Let's check this out. Yeah, you can see up there, there's a little bit of a pivot point. I'm not sure how to adjust it. It looks like there's a screw hole right there where you can loosen that up and then adjust your angle. It looks like this slot here is for another strap for maybe another camera to put on there if you want to put like a smaller camera instead of a GoPro. And we got our video transmitter there underneath. There's our SMA connector. It's all really clean. And looks like you got the gyro. Yeah, that looks like, hold on a second. What is that? Let me see if I can, I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. But that right there is the gyro, the MPU 6050. And they've got this on like some kind of a floating, yeah, it's on some kind of foam. So this is going to basically dampen any vibrations that are coming from the frame, because essentially you don't want your gyro right on the frame, because it's going to get all the vibrations from the motors that run through the arms and right into the bottom plate. So that's pretty smart of them to do that, so you don't have a lot of feedbacks going back into the D loop or the D term and causing your PID loop to go totally bonkers, which is what I was having with the Lux flight controller and my Martian. So the 6050 doesn't have that problem as much as the 6500, but doing this is definitely a good idea. So there we got the F3 CPU there. they've mounted our FrSky receiver here. This is just a XSR. There's the bind button there, and then they've got the accessible bind button over here. And it's nice that they have it labeled. They've got that bind, they got this for video channels. Couldn't really see that through the carbon fiber. And then here, OSD on and off. Let's see, what is this here? That's your CP210 chip for the USB port. And here is your Atmel, what is this, the 8A? That's for the OSD. Let's see, how do they have this mounted? So it looks like the FrSky receiver is just mounted with some foam tape. It's pretty thick foam tape. And what do we got here? We got, okay, so we got the receiver plugged in here. And you got, this is one of the UARTs. So you got ground, and the 5 volts is on the opposite side. So usually you have the ground and the power next to each other, but over in this case you have the receive and the transmit in the middle. So that's unusual, but you got the receive there. Looks like this orange cable here goes from this bind button to that bind button. But I don't see anything for telemetry. I know this XSR does do telemetry, and let's see, like the XSR normally comes with a little connector there that has the smart port telemetry. So I think it's one of those. Obviously, it's got to be one of these 2 pins that are bare that have no wire on it. So if you want to do telemetry, you probably need to figure out which one that is and send it off to one of the other UARTs, probably this one over here. And let's see, I think they give you a cable for that. Let me just double check where that cable go. What did I do? Yeah, here we go. So they give you a 4-pin cable here that'll obviously fit that port. Double check that. This way? No, it's the other way. Yeah. So you could plug that in there and then run your wire to the receiver for the telemetry. Actually, I think I'm probably going to go ahead and do that so I can get battery voltage, which is something that I like to get. Although, come to think of it, since this has an OSD, the battery voltage will be shown on screen. So on second thought, I probably won't go to the trouble of doing that, even though I could do that to get the telemetry on my Tyrannus. Since I'll have it on my OSD and my FPV feed, I think that it's probably not worth the hassle of doing that. However, if you wanted to do that, it's pretty easy to do. Just use this cable and connect it over there. Okay, so let's take a little closer look at these motors, and yeah, they've obviously rebranded this motor. They're calling it the Race Series Holybro 2205 25 50 kV MR 2205, and this actually might be a rebrand of a DYS motor. I'm not 100% sure, but this does look familiar. It does look like a DYS motor, so I'll have to check that out online, and I'll update the description below with any information if I find out what this motor is. But I mean, it looks like a good motor, and the windings are pretty thick. It definitely looks like that DYS motor. It really does. I'm not 100% sure though. You know, I mean, on the surface, it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it. Looks like it's a pretty good condition, and it's very smooth. And the magnets look pretty good. They're very close to the stator. Everything feels solid. So I'll have to investigate that more, and I'll update the description if I find out exactly what's going on with these motors. But my suspicion is that this will be pretty powerful. And if they're giving you 30 amp ESCs, they probably expect this to draw a lot of power, especially with those tri-bladed bullnose 545 props. Those are about to see what kind of the current draw is, but it'll probably be quite a bit. Okay, just going to give this one more look, just make sure I'm not forgetting anything, and just to give you guys a close zoomed in look at this board before I close it up. Do you guys see anything that I missed that was pretty obvious? Which is possible. I've done that before. Let me know in the comments below. But I think I've got everything here. Oh, there's the, I think that's the port for your Spektrum satellite if you want to use a Spektrum satellite. It's got 3.3 volts there. But I think I've got everything covered. Hopefully this gives you guys a good look at what's inside here. I'm going to close this up and we'll take a look at this in clean flight. Okay, so let's take a look at this in clean flight. Go ahead and plug in our USB cable. Okay, so we see that the accelerometer is enabled, which is normal. Let's see what we got here. We are running clean flight 1.12. Probably update that right away. So what I'm probably going to do is just run this off of the stock settings, just because most people are going to buy it like this and not go through the trouble of flashing a new firmware like Betaflight, which is what I'm going to probably do here for a later video. But for this one, I'm just going to fly it on the maiden, pretty much on the stock settings, to see what the out-of-the-box experience is going to be like for someone who would buy this. So we got the, as expected, the FrSky receivers on UART3. One shot 125 is enabled. Motor stop is disabled, so the propellers will spin when you arm. They've got a min throttle setting of 1040 and a max throttle of 1850, so perhaps not the full resolution of the throttle range has been configured out of the box. Receiver mode RX serial, that's pretty normal. They got VBAT enabled. I don't know if there was a beeper in there or not. I don't know if I saw that or not, but we'll check that out. Current meters turned off, and they've got S.bus enabled. And we got a loop time, cycle time of 1000. And they don't have anything here enabled, just black box. And up here we can see data flash free 7.2 megabytes, so it's got the 8 megabytes of black box data. I think this is an SP Racing F3 board. Let me just double check that in the CLI. Let's see here, version. Yeah, it's clean flight SP Racing F3 1.12. So it probably go up right up to 1.13 without any issues. Let's see how fail-safe is set. So pretty standard out of the box fail-safe. I'm going to change this to the guard time to 5 and change it to drop. Everything else is probably okay. Under PID tuning, they're using the multi-lead rewrite PID controller, and looks like these are, I think these are tuned PIDs. I don't know how well tuned they are, but it does look like they've got some not default numbers here. So I'm going to actually fly this initially with these default out-of-the-box PIDs. The rates look a little on the low side, 0.65. I usually like to fly a little bit higher. I'm going to see how that feels, and I'll make adjustments from that point on. All right, so RC rate of 0.9 and RC expo of 0.65. It's all pretty basic. The channel length is AETR, and I think that's the default for the Tyrannus. I think you can change the default in your radio to whatever you want, but out of the box, I believe it's AETR. On the modes, we got arming on auxiliary 1. I might need to change that. I usually like my arming on the high side, not the low side. And they have air mode enabled on aux 2. Nothing in adjustments. So looks like there's some stuff in the black box right now. I don't know what it is. We'll probably just go ahead and erase that. And go ahead and erase that. And I'm going to change this to 33% recording. And so back on my mode, I think I'm going to go ahead and switch this over here because that's what I like. And also air mode as well. And I like to have air mode always on, so I'm just going to have air mode on when I arm. Save. Okay, so I think that's pretty much everything for the maiden. Obviously I'll revisit this and we'll see if we have to make any adjustments.